All right, today we're going to put a stock on the examination table for a full-on health checkup. We're doing a deep dive into Agentix Corp, that's ticker AGTX, based on a technical report to see just how healthy this investment really is.
So what's the diagnosis here? Is this stock a picture of perfect health, or are there some underlying issues we need to be aware of? You know what? Let's just cut to the chase and get the report's final conclusion right up front. And there you have it. The report's bottom line is that AGTX is stable, but maybe a little too quiet. Think of it like a patient who's resting comfortably. Sure, but isn't really showing a whole lot of energy. Yeah, there are some positive signs, but nothing that's going to get your heart racing just yet.
Okay, so let's start with the immediate diagnosis. What's its condition right now? Well, the stock is basically in a holding pattern. It's not crashing, thank goodness, but it's not exactly climbing either. It's stagnant.
Right now, the price tag is a flat 5 cents. No crazy spikes, no scary drops, it's just holding steady. And, on the surface, that stability might sound pretty good, right?
But, and this is a big but, this stability isn't really backed by strong conviction. It comes with a major warning sign from the report: incredibly low trading volume. And here's why that matters. When volume is this low, it can be really hard to sell your shares without tanking the price. In our health checkup, this is like having a very faint pulse.
All right, let's dive in and check the most basic vital signs for any stock: its price action and how many people are actually trading it. I mean, these two numbers, they tell us a huge part of the story.
So, like we said, the price movement has pretty much flatlined. It's kind of like looking at a heart monitor that's just beeping along, steady, but with almost no variation at all.
Now take a look at this. This is the hard data. See that closed column for the last few days? 5 cents, 5 cents, 5 cents. It's barely moving an inch. This really just shows you that holding pattern we were just talking about.
And then there's the other vital sign: volume. Look at this number. On October 28th, only 3,300 shares were traded. That is an incredibly low number. It just confirms that very few buyers or sellers are interested in this stock right now.
So what's the takeaway here? Well, it suggests that market's attention is just somewhere else. AGTX is like that quiet patient just resting in the corner with not a lot of visitors. That lack of activity is really the key thing to understand.
Okay, so that's the immediate condition. But what about its long-term health? For that, we've got to zoom out and look at the trend lines. You can think of these like the patient's medical history. It shows us where this stock has been.
And wow, this slide really reveals a kind of split personality. In the short term, yeah, the 5-day average is stable right at that 5-cent mark. But look at the long-term trend. The 200-day average, which, a lot of traders see as a key benchmark for a stock's overall health, is way up at over 27 cents. That massive gap confirms that even though it's stable right now, the stock is in a much broader, long-term downtrend.
All right, time to go a little deeper. Think of this next part as the lab tests. We're going to look at some technical indicators that show us the undercurrents, the hidden momentum and money flow that you can't see just by looking at the price.
So the big question is, despite that flat price and super low volume, is there any energy bubbling up under the surface? Is there a pulse building that we just can't see yet? Let's check the indicators and find out.
First up, we've got something called the RSI, or Relative Strength Index. Now, in simple terms, this thing measures buying and selling pressure. It's designed to tell us if a stock is getting too hot, what we call overbought, or too cold, oversold. It's a really key momentum gauge.
So AGTX's RSI comes in at 62.23. Now, generally, anything over 50 is seen as having at least some bullish momentum. So this number, it's a mildly positive sign. It's not exactly screaming buy, but it does suggest that buyers have a slight edge, even if it is a quiet one.
Okay, next up is the OBV, or on-balance volume. This indicator is all about following the money. It basically adds up the trading volume on days the stock goes up and subtracts it on days it goes down. So a rising OBV is a great sign. It means more money is flowing in than out.
But look at AGTX's OBV. It's a negative 1.28 million. Oof. This tells a totally different story. It suggests that over time, more shares have been traded on down days than on up days. You can think of it like a slow leak, a subtle sign of selling pressure.
Okay, so we've looked at the patient's current state, we've checked the vitals, we've seen the lab results. Now it's time for the prognosis. Based on all this data, what does the report say could happen next?
Well, the analysis lays out 3 pretty distinct paths. First, the bullish scenario. A sudden spike in volume could push it past a key resistance level. Then there's the bearish scenario. That slow leak we talked about continues, and the price drops to test its support level. And then there's the neutral scenario, which is probably the most likely. It just keeps doing what it's been doing, trading flat.
And here we have the final word of advice from the report. The prescription basically is caution. Because that volume is so thin, and because it's an over-the-counter stock, traders should really be careful here. The key things to watch for any sign of life? Any change in volume and other momentum indicators.
And that leaves us with one final thought. AGTX is stable, it's predictable, some might even call it boring. But in a crazy, volatile market, could that quiet stability actually be its own kind of strength? Definitely something to think about.